I believe, all right, I'll give my moral framework really quickly, and you can debate on me with that or whatever. You can disagree with me. My moral framework is the idea that morality exists for social cohesion, right? We developed moral intuitions, moral guidelines, ethical guidelines as we've developed as a society. And evolutionarily, we developed ethical guidelines for our survival. For example, don't kill others is, in terms of evolution, is really, really important. Don't treat others as you would like to be treated is really important in terms of survivability, in terms of like a social in social units, right? So morality, to me, is explainable very easily through evolution, and I do believe morality comes from this evolutionary social, evolutionarily we grew up or we evolved as social beings, and because we evolve as social beings that can act individually, we had to develop moral intuitions and morality as a force of social cohesion. If you have two groups of humans, one with some moral feelings and the other hasn't developed any moral feelings, then the one without moral feelings is not going to cooperate as easily, and therefore the one with moral feelings has a higher chance of surviving. And natural selection, evolution, and you arrive at moral beings, which are humans. But I don't believe, for example, that with that framework and with that justification for morality, that animals necessarily have a place. Because I see the purpose of morality as a force of social cohesion amongst humans. Without this social cohesion amongst humans, or without this need for social cohesion without humans, I think morality would be, wouldn't be needed. It comes from our sociality, or from the fact that we're social, and it's ingrained in our survival as a species, and I think that's the purpose. So I have a very hard time including animals in my ethical framework because of that. However, I am for the idea of not factory farming, for example, because it's extremely bad for the environment and it is not needed at all whatsoever. And it's actually more or less efficient in terms of resources to factory farm animals. It's very inefficient actually. And I think for the environment, in terms of resource management and feeding people just in general, factory farming is a straight up negative. Mutual aid is like Paige says, Mutual Aid by Peter Kropotkin, helped that ethical framework, we'll say. Yeah, Antifantastique says, I agree with morality starting as an evolutionary tool, but to me, morality is just reducing suffering and increasing happiness. So I include all animals that can suffer and feel pain. When we say reducing suffering and increasing happiness, I think again, the reason why we want, we're both utilitarians in that way, because I agree with that. But I think the whole reason why we want to reduce suffering and increase happiness is for our own survival or our own comfort as a species. I don't think it includes animals. In that sense, I guess I'm very much like Stirner. I do believe that it all comes down to the individual, in the sense that individual evolution, or evolutionarily, individuals want to live in a society or in a group that offers them security. Obviously, we want security, and morality and moral feelings ensure that security. And increasing happiness and reducing suffering is part of giving you that security as an individual within a group. And I think that's why we want to reduce suffering and increase happiness, is because we want our own. It's for our own benefit. It's not it's altruistic, but for because ultimately it will be for your own benefit. That's something I believe in for morality. I think everything goes back to the individual. I'm a very Max Stirner kind of vision of it. I don't think it necessarily means you're egoistic or egotistic, because if you think that your own happiness hinges on the happiness of everybody around you, which it is. If everybody around you is happy, you have more chances of being happy. If people around you are bummed out and angry and sad, you will be more sad. So you want everybody to be happy, not because you're so selfless and you just want everyone to be happy, but because the happiness of others will impact your own mood. And when it comes to happiness, we can talk about suffering as well. The reason why I don't want people to suffer around me is because their suffering will negatively impact myself. It's a very cynical way of seeing it, but I think that's how we see it. I think that's why we think that way. We can say, all right, that's not how I think. I'm really doing it out of my own volition without, but I think it's the reason why, ultimately, I think we all think that way. And for example, when you want to reduce pain around you is because that pain will negatively affect you. So if someone, if we allow murder to be super caricatural, to do a caricature, if we accept murder, then people around you, there might be more murders happening around you if murder is not unethical or immoral. And that will affect you, because not only are you more in the dangers of having murder happen to you, but you also have the dangers of murder happening to you, people who are close to you. Same thing for your parents. Same thing for everyone around you as well. They might die, or they might be suffering from the death of their close ones, which will affect your own mood and your own condition as a human. I want to see what people think of that, of what I'm saying there, because I think it might be controversial to some. I want to answer to some pushback. Kez says, but would your morals not affect your actions towards dogs, etc.? I don't see morality as purely human related. It does affect my actions towards dogs in the sense that, for example, a dog, let's say I kick a dog, or if I shoot it. Well, first, if that dog's the pet of someone else, then I am making the world a worse place around me. I don't think kicking a dog out of nowhere is necessarily good, because I still feel guilt. The guilt I would have, in hitting a human for no reason, still transposes on me hitting a dog for no reason. Even though I don't think it's necessarily, it's not equivalent morally, I think my moral intuition still applies. I could not kill a cat, for example. Even though it has no interaction with humans or whatever, I'd still feel guilty. But that guilt, I think, comes from moral intuition and less from an actual moral fact in a way, or at least my moral framework. I think I can still feel bad or feel guilty about something without it actually being immoral. Sometimes you're conditioned into thinking these kind of things as well. And sometimes I think it's just transposing an emotion you have for humans to animals. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's moral because of that. A lot of Christians feel immoral after having sex before marriage. That doesn't make, because they feel that way, doesn't mean it's immoral. But it doesn't mean when I say I don't count animals, I still won't feel okay with killing an animal for no reason, or just beating it to death with a stick. I won't feel okay with it because I still have this moral intuition. I just don't think there's anything immoral about it. But if just for the fact that I would feel weird about it because of because of me transposing it to that, then I would refrain myself from doing it just because it will give me pain. But I remember being a young kid. I went to a farm where we were killing chickens, with an axe by cutting off their heads. Sorry for the graphic depiction, by the way, but this is what happens on farms. And not a factory farm, right? It's the kind of farm where it's all right, the chickens are outside. All right, we gotta kill a couple of them. Let's do it. And there was another kid, and that other kid didn't give a fuck. That kid would grab the chicken by its neck and kill it, no problem. Didn't think twice about it because he was brought up around that. I wasn't. My experiences with chickens was like cartoons. So I transposed morality onto that chicken, of course. But that kid didn't. So I don't think it's... Anyway. But you could use that for things that are actually immoral, so scrap that. All right, Margot is asking, what's the relevance of selflessness, or how we want others to be happy for selfish reasons? I agree for sure. I'm just wondering what the point is. Yeah, thank you for asking. The point is, just in case some others didn't catch that, it's like, to me, the point is, it informs the reason why we are being moral. If I'm being moral for myself and for selfish reasons, which you agree with, then morality, like in terms of harm and like avoiding harm and bringing happiness, that can't be applied to animals, in the sense that, you know, if harm is done to an animal, it doesn't affect my happiness or my harm selfishly, because it doesn't have an impact on the world that will, aside from the fact that, you know, I might feel bad with them being killed, you know, but that would be like, again, like more of a moral intuition, which I reject. So I think the reason why I'm talking about selfish reasons is to say, what are the impacts of this moral reason? And if it doesn't impact me in any remote way, and it can be extremely remote, then yeah, I think that's why I brought it up. I'm sorry. And I think you should be able to argue against anything that you should be able to argue that something is immoral by bringing it back to yourself. It could be anything, you know, and most of it will be, I want this to be immoral, or I'm advocating for it to be immoral because I believe that if it's immoral, it'll make society a better place to live within, and I live within society, so I want to live in a better place. And most of morality is that. It's a calculation. It's utilitarianism. Munchancification says, so you don't think we sometimes do good things just because they are good things? I don't think so, no. I do think that sometimes we think we do good things just for good things. There's a reason why we do good things, and I think we might think it's altruism, and maybe it is, but I think there's underlying reasons as to why our bodies or our brains incite us to do these good things. Hell, just like opening a door for a stranger, you know, in a public place. You might say, oh, I'm just doing that because it's a good thing to do. But at the same time, you're getting rewarded either by a smile or by a thank you or whatever. You're getting rewarded, at least subconsciously. I think you're still doing it expecting either a reward or just thinking this person is going to be happier and therefore it's contributing to the general happiness that surrounds me. I think most of it is subconscious. Like, it's not like every time I do something good, I'm thinking of the implications, the moral implications, and how this will somehow benefit me. And like, it's not every time I do like a moral thing. It's not like I tick some boxes. All right, this will benefit me in this way, in that way, in that way. All right, I'll do it. I think a lot of it is subconscious. Yeah, Yoav Cohen says people who sacrifice themselves in battle to do it in the false belief, feeling that the short good feeling they get at the moment of sacrifice will be greater than all the happiness in their life otherwise. At least that's what I believe. And even if it wasn't, there's like there's the selfish gene theory advocated by Richard Dawkins. The whole idea that, you know, sometimes sacrificing yourself for people is actually also like a utilitarian calculation. All of them being subconscious, of course. Panos Katrin, as a communist, I often use Max Stirner's morality to argue with conservatives on why they should be communists. When I get the why should I care? Only care about me. Yeah, absolutely. I think Max Stirner's arguments on morality and on individualism is extremely important for that, and very relevant and helpful for that. Anarchism in general, it's when you understand that the individual interests align with the collective's interest, and the collective's interest aligns with the selfish interest, then that's, it's the whole basis of anarchism, basically. Antifantastisch says, I agree with that. Just like all altruism, it's rooted in wanting to feel well myself. So we agree with that. Well, wouldn't most people include the well-being of animals in that? If you're not needing to kill to survive or are being desensitized, don't really see the suffering don't really see the suffering. I feel like most people like wouldn't kill animals like out of fun, or like they'll still like feel like this this guilt maybe if they kill them themselves. But if it's not seen, I don't at the same time I don't know how much I care about most people about most people's. I don't think they include the well-being of animals in that. Mostly because of, I think it's subconscious, like the selfish altruism that we have. We're altruistic just for our own benefit, and being altruistic towards animals does not benefit us in any way. Aside from for climate, for the climate, which is one of the reasons why I advocate to stop factory farming. Panos Catherine says, I'm an intellectual, guys. Margot says, what does it matter that we are kind or do certain things for our own sake? I think it's just a logical course of action, you know? I think it's important just to know why we consider things moral and immoral. I think it's an important thing to know, because, like, for example, is killing an animal that's never interacted with a human and that is suffering in factory farming, or putting that animal into factory farming, is that immoral? And if we think morality of just doing something for our own sake, you have a very hard time tracing that back to your own to your own benefits or to your own interests. Like I was talking earlier, if we talk about, for example, child labor in developing countries, there's a selfish reason to not want children to be enforced into labor in developing countries. If that child doesn't have to can emancipate themselves and do what they want, they can contribute to the literary, the cultural, the scientific advancement of the human species more than ever, actually, as well. Because now we benefit. Individually, I benefit from some child in, I don't know, in Vietnam getting well, maybe not a child, but someone in Vietnam getting a bachelor's degree. I benefit from that, maybe in a very small fraction, but I do benefit from it, and I should advocate for more people in Vietnam, more people in Indonesia, more people in Sri Lanka to get bachelors, to get masters, to get PhDs, to get to start doing music, to start doing art in general, because it benefits me, indirectly, absolutely, but it does benefit me. But for example, saving a cow from factory farming, how will it benefit me? That's why I'm bringing up the question. In any marginal way, in terms of doing things for your own sake, and I hope we understand that we can still be altruistic through doing things our own, for our own sake. But how is the survival of a cow out of factory farming going to benefit me in any marginal way? It's possible if you can tell me how it's possible. And all of this is just super interesting because I'm still against factory farming.